Hey everybody, Howard Gearhauser here. On the line, you have my dad, Dr. G. In today's video, we're going to talk about nicotinamide riboside. Now, you might have been seeing a lot of these anti-aging, reverse aging supplements out there that are precursors for NAD. So we want to talk about that, see if is the supplement the best way to do this? Is there a natural way that maybe we could be doing the same thing? Is it a combination of both of those? What's the best path forward for the nicotinamide riboside? So, Dad, can you explain a little bit more about what this is and what's going on, and also about these supplements that are really pushing this patented process?
Okay, well, as probably most of you know out there, we have little organelles inside our cells called mitochondria that make energy. That energy is in the form of ATP. And as far as like mainstream science is concerned, this is how all of our energy is formed. Now, we don't believe that in quantum possibility. We believe that more of our energy actually comes directly from nature, but that's a whole nother topic that we're not going to go into. So right now we're going to pretend like we're conventional scientists and that ATP is the energy currency. It comprises 90 to 95% of all the energy that our body needs every day to do all the functions that it does, 100,000 chemical reactions per second, per cell, 30 to 100 trillion cells. I mean, we're talking about numbers you can't imagine in your wildest dreams of complexity going on. Energy is a big part of that. So the energy currency, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So that's made in what's called the matrix or the inside of the mitochondria. ATP is generated, and it's generated from the process of taking our food and stripping the electrons and the protons off of our food. So when we eat food and it goes into our, let's say the glucose molecule, or it could be a fat or a protein, goes into our mitochondria, then if it's glucose, which is kind of one of the main energy carriers that makes ATP, if you learned about, glycolysis and oxidative phosphorylation, the process of making energy, glycolysis is making ATP without oxygen, and oxidative phosphorylation is making ATP with oxygen. So with oxygen, we make way more. So when glucose comes in, it was kind of one of the major energy sources for our body. When it comes in, it goes to what's the first train station along what's called the electron transport chain. The first station, it's called cytochrome 1. It takes those electrons in a molecule called NAD. Okay, so NAD is really important. It's really important because it's the first step in taking electrons. Without it, you're not going to make energy. It has other functions. It is part of DNA repair. It's regulates our immune system. It's, as here, part of our energy production. It also has function in setting our circadian rhythm. So it has multiple other functions. The other thing it does is it increases an enzyme in our body called the sirtuins. So the sirtuins are huge in anti-aging because the sirtuins slow down the aging process, these enzymes. And what they do, the way they function, is they turn on and off genes. So NAD increases sirtuins. So all these important functions of NAD. So you go, hey, can I take a pill and raise my NAD? And so that's the idea behind these ads you see, is that you can take a precursor of NAD, which is called the nicotinamide riboside that Howard mentioned, that is shown in studies that if a human takes that, or a rat or a mouse, if they take that, then their NAD levels go up. Now in the rats, also ATP goes up and they become much more energetic. And so that got scientists really excited. Hey, we can have a pill to give people more energy, and this would be great. So that does happen in mice. Does that happen in humans? That study hasn't been published yet. Now, maybe it will be soon. Maybe this will be the holy grail of anti-aging, but there are deeper things involved that I think are important.
Yeah, and one thing that we've always thought about with supplements, as many of you might know, we have our own supplement line, and we do support supplements big time. But it's not a replacement for connecting with nature. And I think that's a really important thing to realize, is that you need to be connected with nature still. This might just be something to help augment all of the new stuff we have bombarding us. But you need to be doing what you can to stay connected to nature, to Mother Earth, and make sure that your body is doing everything it can to stay in rhythm with the planet. Because if you don't, a supplement is just another band aid if you're not doing everything else right. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I mean, supplements, they can be important. They can replace drugs. They could theoretically save your life if they treat and help a medical condition. Uh, but but the idea that you can take a supplement instead of, minding your circadian rhythm, instead of getting adequate sun exposure, that is the dark side of supplements. And that if you say, hey, I'm not going to do that other stuff, I'm not going to bother with it because I'm taking this pill, and this pill is going to be my dose of nature, that I don't think works very often. Now, I might be proven to be wrong in the future, but right now, I don't think taking nicotinamide riboside is going to replace nature. Now, am I against biohacking yourself? You're doing the other stuff and you're trying to get over a condition, or maybe trying to impact some of the markers of aging that you've noticed in your life. Some things aren't going so well. I'm not against using supplements at all. It's just that supplements are not the holy grail. The holy grail is the stuff we preach.
Exactly. So let's get back to the NAD supplement. Well, I guess it's not. It's a precursor for NAD. But what is it about this specific supplement that has people so excited compared to the large number of other supplements that are on the market?
Well, one of the things is the science behind it. So in 2013, professor at Harvard, David Sinclair, um, published an article, and what he found out this importance of NAD, and found out that NAD kind of drops precipitously as we age. So they found that at the age of 50, we have about half the NAD. And remember, NAD is the first acceptor of electrons in the electron transport chains, which how we make energy. So if you have half the NAD when you're 50 as you did when you were 5, then that maybe isn't so good. But his study was linked this to the sirtuins, and he coined the term pseudohypoxia. Now, I don't know if you know, but hypoxia means lack of oxygen. So oxygen is the terminal electron acceptor. When we make energy, oxygen is the final step of taking those electrons, and we make energy along the way. And so without oxygen, you don't have energy with the oxidative phosphorylation. So pseudohypoxia means, and pseudo means fake in Latin, but pseudohypoxia means that there's plenty of oxygen, but your body's acting like there isn't enough. And so a low NAD, which just happens with aging, has pseudohypoxia. So that goes well. And then you see studies where I can take a precursor of it, nicotinamide riboside, and raise my levels. Again, sort of sound like the Holy Grail. So they were able to patent the nicotinamide riboside. I get a patent on it so that they don't have to deal with competition as far as, hey, if this is a Holy Grail and we have a patent on it, we're going to be able to print money. And so that's why these supplements are expensive, because they are patented, they're patent protected. And I'm not saying that's bad. That's our system. That's the way drugs are able to, one of the new drugs, $1 million for a course. There's no end in sight of how high they might raise the price of a drug. So I'm not against patenting things, But again, thinking that a pill that does raise your NAD, is that going to be the solution? And so a couple of things that I could mention here is there are other things that we know raise NAD levels. And these are things that we preach. Things like exercise, things like intermittent fasting, things like ketogenic diet, things like calorie restriction. These all increase NAD and they increase the sirtuins, which are anti-aging enzymes. So here we can do things naturally. Of course, those all require work, whereas a pill doesn't. Now, which works better? I mean, who knows? It's anybody's guess. Does the pill work as good as the exercise? The exercise better than the pill? No one knows. But we also know that there's certain people with certain genetic polymorphisms. So that's like you have a mutation in a gene in our metabolism pathways that some people don't tolerate the nicotinamide riboside. They have a really bad reaction. So some people have a bad reaction. The dose they give is greater than physiologic. In other words, a physiologic dose would be, and these are related to niacin, vitamin B3. So vitamin B3 is part of this whole pathway. And high dose niacin has been out there forever. Is this that much different? Well, some people say no. Hey, just buy some niacin. Take that. But it's relatively high dose. Some people can have a reaction. It's expensive, so it's costing you money without knowing for sure that it increases energy in humans. And without knowing for sure, is there some feedback mechanism that it could cause a problem? I mean, that's not known for sure. But what we do know is NAD is formed from tryptophan, the amino acid tryptophan. And tryptophan, in order for it to get formed into NAD, needs to absorb certain frequencies of ultraviolet light that we get from that fireball in the sky that's baking on me right now. So you think that NAD that's in that pill has had that fireball activated? Maybe they open the window in the lab and hey, get, they're cooking up some of that nicotinamide riboside and they, put it in the sunlight there, let it get those phenol rings to catch those photons to activate them. Maybe they do that, but maybe nature's way of making NAD with the ultraviolet light activated molecule, maybe it's different than the pill. Things to think about.
And what we seem to find time and time again is that nature is very complex. There's a lot of nuance to what's going on. We keep discovering more and more the deeper we go. So I tend to trust nature first. But yeah, if you're in the biohacking community, or you're trying to maybe you're starting to age a little bit and want to see if you can reverse that process and you're doing everything else right, this might be something you want to consider trying. And if you do, let us know how it goes. We're open-minded to supplements. As we mentioned, we're big on supplements if you're doing everything else right and you're trying to maybe work on a specific health condition, or if you're trying to biohack your life. But to rely on them and throw everything else out, all the natural things, probably doesn't make sense. That's going more into a magic pill mentality, which we know that doesn't really exist. Maybe this will be the one, but up until now, that doesn't exist. Is there anything else you wanted to add about this supplement?
Well, I think the key things with getting the NAD story right is to get that sun exposure. So you activate tryptophan to form an NAD. So most of us, as we say ad nauseum, most of us don't get nearly enough sunlight every day in our life. So that's a big problem for almost every one of you out there. That was my problem for many, many years. Being a doctor, you're in the clinic all the time. You're studying a lot. You're researching a lot. You're indoors a lot of the time. And so most of us like that. We're trapped in this society that does everything indoors. I broke away from it. It revolutionized my life. It reversed some conditions that were going to take me out early. So I'm very thankful that I came upon this. So the sun is one key. The other key is the circadian rhythm. Remember, I said NAD is part of what sets the circadian rhythm, but there's another, and this goes back to what Howard was saying about we know so little about what's really going on inside of us. We are just touching the surface of this hugely complex thing. And just recently, they found this enzyme. It's called nocturnin. So nocturnin is an enzyme, actually a form of that enzyme called curled that was found 100 years ago in fruit flies. So this nocturnin enzyme, what does it do? Well, they just discovered it like this year. You know, they have more sophisticated ways of measuring what happens at this tiny, tiny scale. So what they found is this nocturnin takes a molecule called NADPH. So NAD with a pH on it. The P is a phosphorus and then an extra hydrogen. So that phosphorus and NADPH. So NADPH is really important. It's part of how we make nucleic acids. That's our genetic structure and all kinds of different things. But NADPH, this enzyme hooks onto the molecule and it pops off that P and that H to make NAD. So here we have a new discovery of something that creates NAD naturally within our body. Well, what is nocturnin turned on by? Nocturnin turned on by our circadian rhythm. It's high in the morning. Okay, you think of a hunter-gatherer, probably needs some energy to catch that rabbit or to catch that catfish that's swimming up the river. So the human had that energy because the nocturnin is making NAD in the morning at a high rate if you had a dark night and you had sunlight the day before to set your circadian rhythm. The circle of life, you know, it's all about the circle of life. You know, you can take the pills, and I take pills. You know, I take some specific pills, but I really believe that the pills should be individualized because there's very low chance that you can just blanket say, everyone take this pill. So that's just my feeling on the issue.
And I think the supplements are a great optimization strategy too. Once you have, you know, the basics done properly, your circadian rhythms dialed in, you're getting the deep sleep every night, you're getting your sun exposure, you're minding your artificial light, you're getting grounded, you're doing those 10 protocols that your doctor will never tell you about, that one video that you should go check out after this. Once you're doing all that stuff, then yeah, layering on different things to see if you can, you know, take it up a percentage point or two, fantastic. Go mess around with that. Go see if you can optimize. But it's just like my dad mentioned, if it's not individualized, it's kind of a crapshoot if it's going to work for you. It's expensive. So do the free things first. And then if you want to take it to the next level, start layering on some supplements. I think it's the best way to go about it, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would say in general.
Great. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we sign off on this episode?
No, I think that's good. We covered this pretty well.
Great. So make sure to go check out our other videos. We have tons of content. We're doing a video a day. So go check out the other dozens of videos that we've put up. We really are here to serve you guys. And we'll see you on the next video episode. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.